Whatever you're funny, Peacock's got it exclusively. Stream classic sitcoms like The Office, Parks and Recreation, and 2.5 Men. Plus, catch Peacock original comedies like AP Bio and Saved by the Bell. For all your exclusive comedy faves, go to peacocktv.com and get started.
Checkers 2 for $10 Big Buford or Mother Cruncher combos are here. With your choice of 2 Big Bufords made with 100% beef patties and melted American cheese. 2 classic Mother Cruncher chicken sandwiches made with crispy white meat chicken and our signature squawk sauce. Or 1 of each with 2 orders of our famous seasoned fries and 2 refreshing drinks for just $10. This deal is as big as your day is long because double shifts call for double the delicious. After all, you've earned it. 2 for $10 Big Buford or Mother Cruncher combos only at Checkers.
On United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. This evening's segment is partially sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee. So huge thank you to Folgers. Much love to you as well. Tonight we welcome Dr. David Bettanhausen and Carla Bogni-Kidd to the show for the very first time, and they will be discussing reincarnation. So of course this is something that we always get very excited about. So we're dying to hear all about it. But in order to participate in tonight's show, as usual, guys, you know we're streaming at least over 8 different video platforms, all of the networks, Facebook pages. We are on BitTube. We're not on BitTube. We are on, I'm just trying to look here, Twitter. We are on Twitch. And of course we have what is it? UFO Paranormal. And we are also on International Public Radio. And I can't remember the other one. I'm sorry. It's a problem. They're going to have to put a sticky note to my darn forehead. But anyway, we can respond to you immediately if you are on UFO Paranormal. If not, we can see all of your comments here on the stream. So no problem. If we don't respond right away, please be patient and we will do our best to do so. So please settle yourselves in, get your questions ready, and get ready for a great show. It's going to be awesome.
Oh,
so
exactly. Reincarnation. Yippee-yay.
I know. I like it.
My favorite, and I sent it to you and I actually posted it on the Facebook page and I never knew this, was that Barbara woman, her last name escapes me, of her being Anne Frank, and it is extremely compelling for the largest skeptics of you out there. Mm-hmm. I suggest that you go to our Facebook page, it's pinned there, and watch that after the show. You might be changing your mind about things, and I did see quite a few of them, and some of them, you look at it and go, it's a little bit weird, but when the History Channel covers it,
there's something to it.
There's something to it. There's a little bit more validity to it than someone just posting a link. But it's fascinating. I was really surprised the trauma that she suffered as a child as well.
Wow.
Speaks of that.
It's not easy. There's a lot to do with past lives and such and lineage. And is it confused with, DNA imprinting sort of thing, imprinting from our ancestors? It's so fine line. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating.
It really is.
So thank you, Joe. So they're late because they could not make the producer shut up. Yeah, pretty much. But it's a good thing we love you. Yeah, in chat. Well, there's multitudes of chats, Joe.
I didn't look.
Yeah. It's like, thank you for that. So why don't we get the show on the road? We'll introduce a formal invite.
Absolutely. Tonight we're having Dr. David Bettanhausen and Carla Bogni-Kidd. Dave and Carla have been close friends since 1998, feeling a deeper spiritual kinship for each other. Dave and Carla had spontaneous memories of 29 past lives together while meditating. They went on to get past life regression training with Dr. Brian Weiss. Now Dave and Carla spread the message of love and kindness to teach holistic approaches to healing. They teach meditation at their local university and senior centers. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Dave Bettanhausen and Carla Bogni-Kidd. I want to make sure I did not. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
I wanted to make sure I didn't mess up that name.
No.
Actually, it looks like you have a nice Italian name too. So that was really good. You did great.
So does he have, I only had one email for the link.
You only had one email. Okay.
It was the one that you got. Can you send it to him? Copy and paste it, or send it in private chat and I will send it to him.
Okay, let's do that since I'm
That
not
might be
savvy.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's
I know how
okay.
you
Copy and
feel.
paste it.
I am not.
It's one of those days I'm like,
I know how you feel.
or forward your email. You can forward it to him and he can click on it. Like forward the one I sent you immediately to him and he can click on that one.
I don't know how to do that. I'm so sorry.
Oh. All right, just
Okay, there should
you
be
fire
an
that
arrow.
off to me and we'll get that sorted.
I'm old. What can I say?
I know how you feel at days, just days that I feel exactly like that from the inside out.
Do you
Though,
want me to send the link to you, Michelle, and you just send it to him?
Yeah, I'm just going to put it right here. I'm going to go show link. Okay. I think I can actually get it off of Carla's right here. Copy. And I'm going to send it right here. And paste. And we're there. Done.
Okay.
That easy. God, I'm just not operating half bad right now. All right. So, hi, Steve. Hi, Zach. Hi, Jessica. And the rest is all
The rest is up higher.
up
Can't
higher.
Scroll because it's on the other side of the room.
Yes.
I've got to get
Awesome.
me a nice big screen.
It
Attach
helps.
my laptop to the big screen
Oh,
so that
this one's
I
like
miss so
huge.
many messages. Yeah.
It's hard. We're actually, Carla's streaming on 8 different video platforms simultaneously tonight.
Oh, is that all? Only 8?
Only 8.
About
And
100 other streamers, but yeah.
So
I
if
have all I
you,
could do to push the buttons.
There's just a few of us tonight.
if you
Just
go
a few.
onto your right-hand side, if you're looking at the screen, you'll see private chat, you'll see comments. If you click on the comments, you'll get to see all the comments that are in the different
There we
various.
go.
See, there we go.
Yay.
Nice and easy. So that way, feel free at some point, if there's something you see you'd like to address, because we don't always like to interrupt. Sometimes we have to get in there if there's a good question, but if you see something right off the cuff that catches your eye, please feel free to comment on it. We're very laid back here, very round table sort of interview. We're not.
I'm not sure what's going on with Dave. I'm not sure why he's not picking up because we're on the same email.
Yeah, and he actually commented earlier today on the other saying he's really looking forward to this segment. We're like, yes, us too. And so, but that's okay. We can get started.
I'll go get him. Give me 2 seconds.
Well, I like that. You guys are that close.
That works. Yeah.
All right, then.
I just want to make mention, if you ask a question in chat and we don't respond to it, if you're coming into late to the show, it could be that our guest has already brought up that topic, and that's the only reason why we don't ask your question. We're not ignoring you. It's just sometimes that conversation's already passed, and it's hard, and it's sometimes you don't want to cut off the guest with their speaking points either.
No,
so we'll get to as many as we can when we see them, as long as if you want, please put @Amelia on there. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, I can't respond to you.
Yeah,
I can't respond.
I think you see it faster that way if you do it that way.
I can only respond if it's in YouTube.
Hello, Pedro. Yes. Oh, something you're interested in. Right on, Steve. I like it. I'm interested in reincarnation also. I've been on a journey of self-exploration for probably 18 years, maybe not that much, maybe 15 years of Halloween. Of trying to figure out past lives, because I was having memories through dreams coming through. So I found it really fascinating to have all that validated.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely forward to the show. I can't hear you, Carla. Okay. Okay. All right.
I still have her mic on mute. They might be trying to set up.
That's okay.
They might be trying to set up together.
There he is. All right. Maybe his computer was down, so we're going to do this together, which is fantastic. There we go.
It's great having you both on one screen.
Yeah, that works out really well.
If you can push the camera back, you'll both fit.
Yes, and you'll have to unmute your microphone. There we go. Unmute the mic.
Yeah, you're muted on the screen.
There you go.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Howdy. Yeah, I was in there waiting, but nobody's let me in.
I had one email and I sent it to Carla. It's like, just maybe forward it. She goes, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, all right, just get me the email and I'll do that.
You'll just be Carla for the night.
That's all right.
Dave. Okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so Joe let you in. Okay, perfect. So you were in. So our producer basically is sleeping on the job there. Producer guy.
Oh, so now I want to go back down to my other computer.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can be Carla for the night if you want, but
No, I'm going back to my computer.
Okay, we'll switch. This is already fun already. We're just getting started.
I feel like the Hollywood Squares. This is just hilarious.
Musical cameras. I don't know. This is cool.
Oh my gosh.
But
since we have the time, let's just mention a second time the great people at Folgers partially sponsor this show tonight, and we'd like to thank them. And we'll get them in as often as we can.
That's right. There we go. There we go. You have to unmute. You have to unmute. We're not hearing you. Carla, we're not hearing you.
Okay, Dave's good. We can hear Dave.
We can hear Dave.
We can't hear Carla.
It's very difficult for us because there's so many shows on the network and these shows are on before us. So links are not made available until the last show before us has basically cleared. Then we get a link. So we don't get them in advance, unfortunately, because we're not the only show on the network. We are also FM as well as podcasts. So we're just one guy on the network here. We're amazing, though, just so you know.
We just need Carla unmute.
Mute the mic, Carla. Very bottom left hand.
Maybe private chat her.
There you are.
There. Excellent. Welcome, both of you.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's wonderful. Welcome.
I love it.
Thank you, finally.
No, this is good. Well, thank you. Now I have, your emails. I'll just save it. But wow. So welcome, both of you. This is a lot of, we've been looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun because it's something that not only I've been interested in it forever, so has Amelia, but a lot of guests have requested topics on reincarnation and such. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So where would you guys like to start? How about humble beginnings? How did all this start for you guys?
Okay, well, Dave is a medical doctor, and I worked for him. I actually worked in the practice that he purchased in 1998. And we were very good friends. But, we're not 29 and 39, and we were used to working in a medical office like they did in the old days. We had charts with pen and paper, and then the government said, you're going to implement electronic medical records. Now, we had computers, but everything wasn't on the computer. So it was extremely stressful, and Dave was spending countless hours. And, I like to tell people he is a cross between like Yogi Bear and Fred Flintstone, but he wasn't. He was
a heck of a mix.
I know, well, he was a lot of fun, but then he wasn't. And then he was a crab, and you couldn't talk to him, and he just didn't listen. So, I was at home one morning getting ready for work, and in a very unlikely publication, AARP, I read this article about meditation and all the benefits. And I thought, okay, so I had tried meditation years before, but I had that, good Catholic upbringing where you're going to conjure up something. So I stopped doing it. Well, I thought, what the heck? I read all the benefits. They were fantastic. And I thought, we'll try. So I brought it in and I said to Dave, well, we can do one of two things. I can call a counselor to see if we can, snap you back into your normal self, or do you want to try meditation as an office? And we had a small office. There were 4 of us. And he said, let's try meditation. Now, mind you, we're your so-called normal, everyday people, whatever that is. And the other 2 girls came in at 7:30. We all sat down and
Are your kids bored this summer? It's Spawn Tub Manufacturer's Instant Fun Sale going on now. Instant fun for the whole family. Cool off with a complete pool package, only $13.99 or just $45 a month. We can install by next week. Instant fun in your new spa for just $60 a month. Relax and unwind. Or tan at home in an instant with your own tanning bed. Great deals and instant fun. Instant fun going on now at Spawn Tub Manufacturers.
To the room. We had a candle lit and nice music, and the patients weren't coming until 8:30, so we had a little bit of time. And the first day, we all said we just couldn't shut our minds off. It was really hard. It's like, oh, did I turn that on? What about this? What am I having for dinner? So we all commented on that. The second day, we all saw different colors, different bright colors. So we talked about that. Well, the third day, the girls said, we don't want to come in early. We'll do it at home. So it was just Dave and I. And on that third day, we meditated and we heard the patients coming in. So we got up and started doing our usual thing. And Dave came up behind me and he said, Carla, I got to tell you something. I think I was talking to your mother. And I said, what? And he said, I think I was talking to your mother. Well, I've always been rather open-minded. You know, I've been to mediums and psychics and, I'm into horoscopes and all of those things. So my first thought was, well, why didn't you talk to me? Why is she coming to you? And I'm like, it's my mother.
Never mind. What's the message? What the heck, Dave?
Well, he never even met her. She died in 1996, and he didn't buy the medical practice.
So did my mother.
Oh, really? Oh. Well, mine had a brain tumor. I regress. Sorry, but Dave never met her, so he knew a little bit about her, but. He said that this woman he was talking to was jovial and she was laughing and joking, and she showed him a shoe. And I said, a shoe? And he said, yes. So I went over to the computer and I Googled shoes, and like 60 pair popped up on the screen. And I said, which one? And he pointed to the exact shoe. My mother was a ballroom dancer. He picked the exact shoe she wore her entire life, open-toed shoe, small pump, and she would wear it like for dress up too. And we didn't have a lot of money, so she would dye the shoes different colors. They were satin. And he looked at us and I said, like, how could you possibly know that? Well, my sister also worked in the office, and she took out a picture of my mother and she showed it to him, and he got really emotional. He said, that was the woman I was talking to. So we started to meditate and get more and more and more things, and we started journaling everything, and nothing made sense. Dave would get all kinds of faces and pictures and places he had never gone, and we just kept writing everything down. And then he came in one day and said, last night when I was meditating, I had something happened. I had this experience, and I'll let him tell you since it was him.
Yes, I'll share this with you guys. So I had this memory of a time when I was 3 years old, and I remembered because that I was in Boston on a beach, and Carla and Paula were both from Boston originally, and they both looked at me and said, when were you in Boston? I said, well, it was 1962. My dad went to graduate school. I went to Boston. I was on a beach, and I was running on this beach, and I was yelling and screaming, because I had never seen the ocean before.
Because he was obnoxious.
Yeah. So I was running and screaming, and suddenly this little girl ran over, pushed me down, sat on my chest, kissed me on the forehead, jumped back up and said, you've got to be quiet. Shut up. You're bothering my family.
Like your spirit.
This little girl.
But that's a real Bostonian, though. I mean, like, seriously, it's my favorite city.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so this little girl jumps back up. She puts both hands on her hips and she kind of looks at me. And she's standing there with this little two-piece blue bathing suit with little ruffles. And she's got this little tiny pot belly that sticks over. I said tiny.
Yeah.
I said tiny. And Carla looked at me and said, oh my God, Dave, that was me.
Wow.
Which was now 50 some years before this memory returned.
Holy crap.
And it was 35 years before I met Carla when I bought the medical practice. And Carla, tell them about why you remember even the story.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to meditate to remember it. We were, from the good Catholic family. I was the youngest of 6 girls, and my parents were always splitting up, but never got divorced because they were Catholic. And, he had his girlfriend and she had her boyfriend, and then they get back together. And it was, it was pretty sad for all us little girls. But on this particular day, like I said, we didn't have a lot of money, but my father rented 2 cabs, and we all went to Revere Beach. And Revere Beach just was, it wasn't just sand and water. It had an amusement park with it. So when Dave started to talk about it, Paul and I both knew exactly that it was Revere Beach. And then as he told what he remembered, I remembered when we got there that day, I always would inherit somebody's bathing suit, one of my older sisters, and I didn't have one for whatever reason. So we all went across the street, and I got my first brand new bathing suit. It was blue, ruffled, 2-piece, which was, a little risque. My mother never let us do that. And so when he talked about it, I thought, oh, how could you possibly know that? And of course, chill went up my back. And then, we didn't keep in touch. We never talked about this. Nothing ever came up until this day when he came in and told me the memory. And then he started to get more and more things. And then he came in another day and told me about what had happened the night before.
Yeah. And this night, the night before I started to have a memory.
Do you have your computer volume on?
I think so. I don't know why is it better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So the next day I came in, or a few days later, I came in and had another memory. And I started to share the memory with Carla because in this memory, I'm standing in an alley. And I look across this dark alley, and Carla's standing there. And she's standing there, and she's wearing a flapper outfit. Now, I say Carla, but it didn't look exactly like her. Certainly, she was younger, still had incredible steel blue eyes. But she's standing there, and she's looking at me, and I see 2 flashes of light. I hear gunshots. I get hit in the chest, and I'm thrown back, and I'm bleeding and dying in an alley.
Wow.
It was very strange.
He actually fell out of bed at home when it happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then the next day, I had another memory. And I remembered meeting this woman at a wedding of a man named Angelo. I had asked her out to go to breakfast the next day. And we went to breakfast in Chicago. And we went for a walk along the Chicago coastline in Lake Michigan. And she was telling me her name was Ruby Donaldson. Her father's name was James. She was born in Bullock, Georgia, and she worked for the mobster named Angelo as a flapper in his speakeasy. And so I got this little part of the story. So I told Carla that part of the story. Carla's like, this is strange. She ran off to do research the next day. She had a day off from work. And she called me at work and said, I found her. So tell the story, Carla, again.
Well, actually, I got onto Ancestry.com, and I found, who would think the name Ruby Donaldson would be that popular, but it really was in the 1900s. But I found her born in 1904 to James and Anna Donaldson. Luckily, Dave had written all those names down, so we knew what they were, and that she was one of 11 children. And I found pictures of my parents, Ruby's parents, and I found pictures of some of my siblings, but there wasn't a picture of me. But then I also found an article on the wedding of Angelo Jenna to Lucille Spinola, January the 10th, 1925, at Ashland Auditorium in Chicago. There were over 3,000 mobsters there, and they made it into like a church because there wasn't a big enough church for it. But their wedding cake was over 10 feet tall, so there was a separate little picture of the wedding cake. So I called Dave and I said, I can corroborate what you're telling me. I found the wedding. I found, the mobster. I found my parents. So needless to say, now we were really, really curious. So we wanted more, and we just kept meditating and writing everything down because nothing seemed to fit yet.
Yeah, and there even became a day when we jumped in the car, drove to Chicago. We actually went to Little Italy, walked down Halsted Street, turned on Loomis Street, where I remembered, and across the street I said, that's the apartment Ruby used to live in. And a friend of mine did the research. The apartment building was built in 1899 and had been an apartment building ever since.
That's insane.
That's very cool.
So you knew when you had this memory that it was Carla. So how did you convince Carla? Or Carla, did you have a similar memory?
Well, tell them the next part.
Okay.
So again, meditating, I got more of the story. And I came into Carla and said, just sit down. It's going to be a little different, but I've got to tell you the story. And I started to tell Carla the story of what happened in between meeting her and the time I got shot. So
and it was really juicy and uncomfortable.
I see.
Yeah, because I became a little bit involved with the flapper. And
no.
and yes. And so I'm having this discussion, and I start to feel like I am, and I actually literally become JJ Wright, which is my name. And I'm talking to Carla, and as I'm talking to Carla, she looks at me and starts to finish the sentences and starts to have the same memory from 1925 before either of us were born.
It was very wild. And it's almost like, where did that come from? Who said that? It was really strange and very uncomfortable because we were both married to other people. And I'm like, ooh, we shouldn't be feeling this. So we both ran out of the room, and I was like, okay. I didn't talk to him. I stayed away from him. It was really an uncomfortable feeling. Well, he had told a lot of things. Oh, very awkward.
And so we continued. Yeah, we continued to meet. And our first book is called Mother Isabella, is The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth. Because I first met Carla's mother. Then I met Isabella, who was my spirit guide, who at that point came through and said, well, I've been your spirit guide through many past lives. Now, I'm a doctor.
Right.
I think, okay, Carla's right. I should have gone to the counselor because I'm losing my mind. Okay? But Isabella said, well, I've been with you for 42 of your past lives for almost the last 6,000 years.
Wow.
Then we started getting more stories and more memories. We soon found 34 past lives for Carla, and we found out that we have shared 29 of them.
Wow. Wow.
And then we started writing everything down about all of the stories, anything that we could get. Isabel would try to explain things. Then Carla, because she's the most curious woman I know, started saying, ask Isabella this. So I would. And Isabella would say, reincarnation was God's plan from the beginning. No, there was no hell. Why did you think there was a hell? Where did that come from? Yes, it's something religion taught you. Yes, the Bible's a good reference book. It's sort of historic, but it's written by man, and you can't believe everything that's there. Somebody else has been interpreting it. And I'm like,
true.
So I'm telling Carla all these things. Carla's, by the time the next 2, 3, 4 years go by, Carla's got.
If you have loved ones that rely on your income, you need life insurance. But finding the best quote shouldn't take a lifetime. With Policy Genius, you could save 50% or more by comparing quotes from America's top insurers. First, head to policygenius.com. In minutes, Policy Genius will compare prices starting at as little as $1 a day. You might even be eligible to fast-track your coverage with a no-exam policy. Once you apply, the Policy Genius team handles all the paperwork and red tape. If you have any questions, their team of licensed independent experts is on hand to help. In fact, Policy Genius's award-winning service has a 5-star rating across thousands of reviews on Trustpilot and Google. Make today the day you cross life insurance off your list and get protection for your loved ones. You could save 50% or more by comparing quotes. To get covered, head to policygenius.com today.
2021 is the 25th anniversary of the Telecommunications Act of 1996, the last comprehensive update to Internet regulation. The Internet has experienced more than a few updates since 1996, but Internet regulations have not. That's why Facebook supports updated regulations on key issues like preventing election interference, protecting people's privacy, reforming Section 230, and more. See Facebook's progress on key issues and what's next at about.fb.com/regulations.
8 notebooks, and it's filled from front to back with past life stories, messages from Isabella. And we said, we've got to tell somebody about this, that we're having this experience. And then, because I'm a doctor, again, I say that, but I started.
My logical brain says,
yes, it says this can't be true. So we started doing all the research we could. We found out that the Department of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia has been doing studies on reincarnation for almost 50 years. They have about 2,500 kids with spontaneous past life memories. We started doing some other research on meditation, past life regression, and we found that the brain during meditation, past life regression, has increased alpha waves in the front and theta waves in the back, both during meditation. Okay, thanks.
Alpha in the back, theta in the front.
Okay, but both theta waves. So your brain actually in both states goes into that. We found that theta waves are associated with memory. We found that people started talking about, other people talk about past life memories. We've read about Dr. Brian Weiss and how he had regressed people back, first as a child, and then some people went back farther into another life. Then, because we were both raised Catholic, we started looking at religion. And we found a lot of things on mild comments in the Bible that can be interpreted as possibly discussing reincarnation. And then we read about Origen of Alexandria, who was first a Jewish scholar, if you want to call it that, and he wrote almost all the original doctrine of the church.
wow.
However, when Origen wrote all of his papers, Origen said that he believed in pre-existence of the soul and transmigration of the soul was biblical. Well, that was in about 200 AD. In 400 AD, Justinian was the emperor of Rome, and he called all the bishops together, and he said, this can't be so. And so they decided that even though Origen had been dead for 200 years, they excommunicated him from the church and destroyed his writings. So
figures.
Yeah.
So when you're
dang Romans.
yeah, that's right. I don't know. We've had
Our
some
relatives.
Yes, we've had some Roman lives too, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, I know.
But so here we have this church thing that says, well, maybe we've kind of messed with the story. And we had our experiences, which showed many past lives. I had Isabella telling me, this is the way God planned it, chance after chance, to learn to get it right, to learn, grow through karma, with the ability to overcome and then return back as the spark of love in which you were created. Isabella says, why free will? That's why we have so many mistakes in this world, but we all have to have free will, or we can't choose to love, because love can't be forced or, coerced out of you. And so God wants you to return as the love you were created.
Mm-hmm.
So then that gave us a lot of things to start with in our first book. And then Isabella told us the 5 simple rules for living, and I'll let Carla do that.
Well, I should say that in our first book, there's 20 of our past life stories. And after every story, and the details we have to actually cut out a lot of the details, because since Dave can connect like this, and as he said, well, I have regressed him, and he's gone kind of back to that life. And I've taped him, and I've written everything down. But we have great details in the book. So at the end of each one of those stories, we actually explain what we didn't do positively in those lives. We hate to say mistakes, right and wrong. We would rather say positive and negative. So at the end of each one of those stories, we learned what we did. And Isabella said that she would make it like a condensed version of the 10 Commandments, because it was easier for everybody. Simple. If we live a life without conceit, jealousy, selfishness, and unforgiveness, and we do everything in love to learn compassion, then that's how we get off the karmic wheel. Then we don't have to come back.
I'm going to hell.
Well, if there was one, we'd all be there. No.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a temper.
Well,
Amelia,
I'm very impatient with a temper, so we're all in trouble. Well, I'm a slow learner 34 times. Dave's a slow learner 42 times. But after we wrote the first book, I mean, only one person in my family talks to me because they're sure that I'm cavorting with Satan over here. So we actually wrote the next book, Hell No Reincarnation, to try and reconcile what was happening to us and what we found through research. And there's actually 7 more of our stories in that book, because we wanted to explain what happened. You know, we're so-called normal people, but if you get onto any of these reincarnation sites, there's a lot of people having experiences.
Very many.
Yeah, and we're not the only ones. There's a lot of people that talk to God. They talk to Jesus. It's not, it's these main people out here that they're the weird ones. We're not. It's not happening to them.
I think when you have experience such as this, it's just all part of evolving.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Awakening. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's just, some people stay on the hamster wheel. They don't know they're on a hamster wheel. Life keeps you very busy. Sometimes you're working 2 jobs. You have a family. You're running you don't have time to really explore these things, to even think about them. But when you can, it really is a form of evolution.
It is, and it's a gift, and it happened to us later in life, because earlier in life, like you just said, I don't know how we would have handled it. We were busy doing what everybody does, and we had gotten to a point in life where we could accept it. We needed to open our mind. Everybody needs to open their mind. Meditation is fantastic. The health benefits, Dave, as the doctor, explain some of the fantastic health benefits for those who do not already know.
So again, because it's my kind of thing, I start to do the research, and part of it was being your best self. It did change me when we started to meditate every day. And actually, the first year we meditated, I set a goal to lose 2 pounds a week.
Wow.
And a year later, I was 104 pounds less.
Wow. Congratulations.
Excellent.
Now, I found out that meditation reduces cortisol, which is that stress hormone that helps you hold on fat. Yep. I found out that it lowers blood sugar, lowers high blood pressure. It actually increases dopamine and serotonin, which is what we give people if they have depression. So meditation has all these positive values, or positive benefits. But I started to realize that it also opens you up to a lot of other possibilities, including possibly what your past lives were, possibly who your spirit guide is, possibly your connection with God and the universe. And those are the things that are important. Now, we learned a lot looking at our past lives, and we started to see patterns. One pattern is Carla's had 14 lives where she was Black. I've had 16 where I was Black. We found lives where we were Scottish and English, and actually there's 3 or 4 lives in a row where we're Scottish, then English, then Scottish, where we actually are fighting on the opposite sides even of the same wars.
Wow.
Because we have to fight against even yourself to learn real compassion. We started to find that we'd been Catholic and Protestant and pagan, Black, white, Jewish. Because if you don't live each side, how are you going to understand what the other side is like?
So and we've been saints and sinners.
Why do you think we come here with no memory? Like I've said this probably a million times in my life, and especially on this show, we are a species with amnesia. We come here with no recollection or very little recollection of where we come from. So you're bound to repeat those mistakes because you don't remember making them.
There's a couple good explanations for that we've gotten. The first one is, in this physical world, you need the experience without remembering what it's like there. The other thing is, if you're there, and if you look at people who have had NDEs and most of those kind of experiences, everybody says it's warm, loving, accepting. There would actually be an overwhelming grief if you remembered what it was like to be on the other side.
I agree with you on that because of those you've left behind, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The constant loss, like reliving loss.
Correct.
Perhaps.
So that's why those of us who have crossed when they weren't supposed to came back, because we had the longing to come back.
Yeah.
Or
Correct.
you got your butt kicked by your mama. She pushed you back to the other side like I did. Yes.
Yeah. She told you it wasn't your time.
It took 3 times for them to convince me, though. I'm not going to lie. I had 4 NDEs and I really wanted to stay. It was not an easy turn back.
Well, and some of the research and writing on NDEs, and I don't know your experience, Amelia, but, people usually say they don't want to come back.
No.
Because it feels so much better there. They also, a lot of people say they have memory of talking to your loved ones or those that have passed, and that's comforting. And leaving that is not comforting.
Well, sure, because you miss them, right?
And a lot of people who have NDEs also start having some sort of past life review. And the same thing happens when you do past life regression on people. If you take them to the time between lives, they have a past life review. Sometimes knowing what you've done wrong makes you want to go back and fix it. So, all of those experiences play together. I think NDEs, past life regression, past life memories, all of those things are really telling us that we're eternal and that we have a purpose for being here. And some of the purpose may be without experience. We don't really have a shared language. And then we would have a shared language. If we've both had a life here, and then you're back on the spiritual side or heaven or whatever you'd like to call it, you have shared experiences so you can communicate. Because without that, there's no language. And even if it's telepathy, you can't show someone something you've never experienced. To share.
I agree with that. That's Amelia and I. If she's not feeling well, I'll basically just message her. And, I'll just say, you need to check your environment. You're feeling low, blah, blah, blah. I always worry about things coming in and psychically attacking her. So it's weird. We do a lot of clearings and work with a lot of people in bad situations. But anyway, so it's just like, I always seem to know when things aren't right.
She's always dead on. Yeah.
So I definitely, I think people who have that connection, I think it when you meet them. Because I have met people through my life that I know I've had connections with in the past, and there's a reason. You're all part of your soul circle, allegedly, and you
your soul group.
Yeah, and you follow each other around different roles, and it is quite fascinating when you look at it that way.
Yeah, Carla's been my mother, my sister, wife, or love interest in many of these lives, friends, neighbors. But she keeps showing up because she's in my soul family.
Mm-hmm.
And we know we return in our soul group, which is made up of our soul, family mates, if you want to call it, and or karmic mates. We have a next door neighbor who's been in 21 of our past lives.
That's crazy. And yet here you are again.
Yeah. Karmically, and he's not always a nice guy.
Right.
So,
yeah. That's
Not to mention the mobster that Ruby worked for, Angelo Genna. He actually was my first husband in this life.
Oh, lucky you.
But I did get away from him in this life. So that was, hopefully I, overcame my karma with him in this life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that karmic thing. It just seems to.
I hate to interrupt you guys, but one of you has a speaker on rather than listening through your headset. That's why we're getting that feedback.
Oh, the feedback?
Yeah, that's from having a speaker on.
Maybe the headset isn't pushed in all the way.
Try that. If you're hearing us through your headset, then you're good to go. But if you're hearing us through your laptop, it's coming back on the microphone.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, I got you through the headset, so.
Yep, no, you sound good.
All right.
Alex Rondini has a question. Yes, this
Sure.
is something I struggle reconciling. If we reincarnate, why does the population keep increasing?
Well, that's a good question.
That's a very good question.
So there's a couple different answers to that. First of all, there are still souls on their first incarnation. So that can still happen. We could continue to grow and have more and more people because there are still souls that have not had their first life. The other thing is, when you look at even our history, when we look at the time between lives, and if you look at the research people, used to be the time between lives appeared to be hundreds of years, and currently now it's about 18 months. So we're actually recycling souls quicker. So that allows for the increase in population. That also means that, you spend less time in the intermediate state. But we still probably only have, from what Isabella says, about a third of the souls on the planet at a time.
Can we do the round without having to go to high school, though? Like, seriously?
And we just drop in at a certain point.
Say, like, I've done this 29 times already. I'm good. I found my last, because I know I've had many lifetimes. My last incident in high school was boring, extremely boring, felt too easy. It was crazy, and I wonder how many times have I been there that it was such a bore for me and I was searching for other things to fulfill me.
I just didn't go to class. There you go. Like, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
I don't feel like peopling. So, but I get that.
I was Mr. Goody Two Shoes, so I went to every single class. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I believe it.
Oh, you're muted, Carla. You have to unmute your microphone. Yep.
It does it to you when you reset things. Yes.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So for you then, reincarnation is something that comes from God. It is a proof of his existence. It's, we're created with a purpose. Is this your purpose this time around? It's to educate people?
Well, I certainly think that's one of our purposes. And of course, we hope we're done. But
please.
But
that's how I feel.
Yes.
I'm pleading.
It's enough already.
I agree. I don't understand when people say, but I want the experience. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
How many times?
Yeah. Can we be done?
There's a lot of theories out there that says that, that some higher self wants all these experiences. Well, our higher self is not very wise if it keeps putting us in this life.
Darn higher self.
Yeah.
Confused.
Now, apparently, I kind of understand this. If God says we have to learn another lesson and he puts us here, okay.
She,
absolutely.
Thank you.
And there is again, Carla's asked every question. God has both a masculine and a feminine side. Otherwise, God would not be complete.
Right.
So, but again, those kind of statements Isabella keeps telling us are the reasons that this all, by the time we write all our last 3 books, is we start to see, we got chunks of the story, but when we got all the chunks of the story, it's really pretty complete. Start seeing that there's a purpose, that we're here. We come into this world again as a newborn, again with that fight or flight, the will to survive. That's all part of our ego. And we spend an entire life trying to get rid of the ego, that conceit, selfishness, jealousy, and unforgiveness, and choose love. We start to choose cooperation. If you want to say, as a group or a society, we still have a long way to go. And we may even have some group karma we're still trying to overcome. We have wars. Even though people say this is a horrible place we live in, we're actually living at the most peaceful time in all of mankind.
Hard to believe, but I agree. I'm a huge studier of ancient history.
Yep, we're in the most, and we actually have the highest standard of living the planet has ever had, even in those areas that are poor. Hunger is becoming less. In fact, we can now have the science to feed the hungry if we could just figure out how to do the transportation and get the food there. And so we're actually at a time when the least amount of people in the world are having a negative experience. So I'd like to believe that as a society, as a world, mankind, however you want to call it, we're actually getting closer to that point. And we've been told that there will become a time when everyone returns home, that there is some hope, that there is a purpose for why we're here. And while we're here, we're hopefully helping others to get there, or learning our lessons so that we can get there. And that's our real purpose.
Okay. Here's a question there, Amelia, at the bottom, if you want to grab it.
Oh, sorry. I was so
captivated. Yeah.
Very captivated.
It's very right on top.
I've got it.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Michael Bowman asks, I am a Christian and I'm not a Bible expert. It seems I never noticed reincarnation in the book. Maybe I missed it. I look at the belief of reincarnation as a religion.
I know people that look at reincarnation as a religion, and if you look at the world's population, yes, 33% of the world's population believes in reincarnation. If you look at Christians, they report 25% of them believe in reincarnation. Of course, that's kept very quiet because that's not what the church teaches. If you look at religion as a belief in God, certainly I believe that it is. If you look at it as a way of life or as a spiritual practice, some people won't call it a religion. So I understand if he thinks that it's a religion.
Right.
I think it's a religion where you have a responsibility and you're required to meet your responsibility, and you're responsible for your own actions.
And for your,
go ahead,
Dave,
Carla.
This is just for your, for the question. A lot of the reincarnation quotes, verses were taken out of the Bible, but Matthew 11:14, Revelations 3:12, Job 1:21, Hebrews 7:10, those are still in there if he wants to look those up.
There you go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Often we miss things because of the vernacular, and you might think that you don't, and it depends on what version you're reading as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yes.
and that's the other thing that I've become slightly more interested in is looking at Hebrew and Aramaic translations of the Bible. Some of the
or mistranslations?
Or mistranslations.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In the book of Leviticus, in the Old Testament, the word written for sin, the word that we translate to sin, is the word kata. Khata.
I think, yeah.
Kata literally means failed to reach your goal.
So it's not as detrimental sounding as it is in the New Testament.
I say you wipe that one off the Ten Commandments and just say,
we're voting on that right now.
So in the book of Leviticus, it says,
right,
literally, if you fail to reach your goal, become more sacrificial and give up something of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you fail to reach your goal, try to make your temple clean, meaning yourself.
Your body.
Your body.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind, your spirit.
Correct. So if you really read Leviticus, it says, if you didn't meet your goal, try harder. That sounds like a story that's closer to reincarnation than
go to hell.
Go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah, so essentially it's just a play on words.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And if you read this, our second book, Hell No Reincarnation, we have a whole section on hell. Actually, in the Old Testament, it is Hades. Then we have Sheol, which is just the place dead people go. It doesn't have a positive or negative value. Mm-hmm. We have Hades in the Greek literature, which is just a place the dead people go. It doesn't have a positive or a negative value.
Much different.
He's a mythological god.
When Christianity came in, a lot of things got changed from the ancient teachings. What were believed to be gods to the ancients were turned into demonics.
Correct.
The more modern, like there's so much there that's not what it is. It's just not what it is. Some of these people are actually really revered, and yet.
Yeah, and then the other third place that's mentioned as hell is the Valley of Gehenna. Well, the Valley of Gehenna was a physical place. It's the ditch outside of Jerusalem where sewage drains and where they kill young children and if they were illegitimate. And it's a place of burning fire and excrement. Well, the King James Bible, anytime they said Valley of Gehenna, anytime they said Hades, or anytime they said Sheol, they translated it to hell. And hell was named after Helya, who's the pagan god of the underworld in the Germanic world.
Yeah.
And King James's wife was Germanic.
Yeah.
I think people would, if they really delved into things such even as God himself, if you get back into the ancient teachings, he was actually married and had a wife. If you really go back. No hate mail here. Send it to Joe Montalvo, producer.
At uprntalkradio.com.
That's right. There we go. But
Michelle,
that is the thing.
That's in our first book, too.
Here we go. Right? I love it. I love it because, it's difficult to get into because.
Are your kids bored this summer? It's Sponta Manufacturers Instant Fun Sale going on now. Instant fun for the whole family. Cool off with a complete pool package, only $13.99 or just $45 a month. We can install by next week. Instant fun in your new spa for just $60 a month. Relax and unwind. Or tan at home in an instant with your own tanning bed. Great deals and instant fun. Instant fun going on now at Sponta Manufacturers.
I'm a cover girl.
I'm a cover girl.
I'm a cover girl too, because I use CoverGirl Simply Ageless Liquid Foundation.
America's #1 anti-aging foundation brand.
Simply Ageless is skincare and makeup in one.
It instantly reduces the look of wrinkles and even skin tone.
With hyaluronic complex and vitamin C for plump skin and a healthy youthful glow.
So be a cover girl like me.
And me.
And get better skin at any age.
Try Simply Ageless Liquid Foundation.
From easy, breezy, beautiful,
CoverGirl.
Because some people are so, I guess it's instilled into us from very, very young. I was raised Catholic also, you know, and I think later on in life, I just took more along the lines of the cape of, or title of spiritual, because I had my beliefs, you know, in a creator and such. But I really, you know, learned a lot from the Gnostic texts and getting into those more ancient groups like the Essenes and the Cathars, and just really forging ahead pre-Constantine, you know, 325 AD when Christianity became a thing, and they borrowed from so many different cultures and amalgamated it and bastardized some of it. And it's like people, you would be mind blown if they opened their mind to it. But I guess, like I said, we get busy. Life is, you know, we're kept busy. We have a life to live. We have families to feed. We have, you know, vacations to go on if you're lucky enough to get one, you know. So it is really tough. But there's a lot of information out there that I think would blow people's minds to really dig.
Just down to, you know, we could at least mention, you know, Jesus was born when the lambs were being born, which is in March. But we celebrated it at Christmas, okay?
And Dr. Dave said it. So no hate mail here.
My birthday. It's my birthday. I'm taking it.
That's right. That's right.
It's my birthday in March. I'm taking it. Lamb
Dave
God,
too.
I like that. Something's got to save me from those
surprises.
10 Commandments. I'm just saying. And I know there was more than 10. That's another show.
No, it is really, you know, it is really interesting. Like it really, when you really go back and see how far things run, you know, how far back it goes, it's easier to look at something like reincarnation as not so much a religion, as a way of life. In fact, many ancient cultures practiced it as a way of life. Right? I mean, they it's part of their culture. They learned about it, and it's, boy, guys, there's so much out there. Because I'm just watching the chat room. There's so much out there. It's fascinating. So I'm pleased that you guys dug and went down that direction too. It's really cool.
Oh, it worked because you explained it very well. Michael Bowman said, "Thank you for your enlightening answers. My mom is a devout Christian and believes in reincarnation. Now I understand it more. I think I'll quit looking at it as a religion. It helps me understand how maybe some people can be so very nice and some so very mean." I'd like to just interject with a little bit of information. In Ontario, Canada, because we were speaking about meditation, our pilot schools, elementary schools, so that's like JK to grade 8 here, have implemented meditation in place of
time out.
Not just time out, but if you're in trouble and you had to stay after school, right?
Yes.
In place of that, they're teaching meditation in that time.
I think that's great.
And it's working out really, really well. And it's guided and it's safe. You know, it's obviously not in the Catholic schools, but it is in the public school system. But it's guided and it's safe, you know. So I just wanted to make mention that. If you live in Ontario, should check that out once all this pandemic stuff is over and your kids could actually go back to school. Just saying.
There are some schools in Columbus, Ohio that are doing it too. So who would have thought, right? But it works.
No, it's great. It's
Different
great.
Times.
It's fantastic.
Sure.
The kids are loving it. Their academic levels are much higher. They're a lot calmer. You don't have the aggressiveness, and it's just working out really well.
I love
it.
Absolutely.
So while we're, back in time a little bit, let's talk about the Book of Enoch and how angels and watchers all fit into all this.
Okay. since you're asking, Michelle,
I am.
I knew you.
I want to know.
If I haven't, we've asked Isabella lots of questions, and we've tried to research as much as we can.
Yeah.
So I want you to think slightly outside the book of Enoch, outside the box just a little. So imagine in heaven, we have God, angels, and spirit guides. Now, we don't see spirit guides mentioned anywhere. I want you to put the word watcher where it says spirit guide, or put the word spirit guide in the book of Enoch. And then the other place you want you to put the word watcher is those people waiting to return. That's where watchers come from. So watchers in the book of Enoch, those who have fallen before and have to return to earth, come down to earth and mate with the women of earth, and their offspring are somehow worse off and are dirty or sinful or animals. That's what Enoch is seeing in his vision.
So the Nephilim, basically.
The Nephilim is some sort of offspring of someone who's had a life before where they were sinful, have fallen and come back to earth because they have karma. They mate with someone else on earth, and then their offspring could have karma carried from their father or their mother, depending on, because everything in the Old Testament is pretty sexist. But
it's always the woman.
It is.
Always the woman's fault.
And it's so funny because ancient cultures always revered the woman as like was always worshiping the goddess. Most temples were to the goddess.
Absolutely.
Maybe Adam ate the apple. Like, who really knows?
Yeah, let's blame it on Adam.
That's right. So
right after we asked Lilith where she was that day.
So we'll also let's just mention. We're going to mention Adam and Eve for 1 second.
Yeah, please.
Because the reality here is it doesn't work that there's just one Adam and Eve. There were multiple souls. Incest. Yes, there were multiple souls with it that had their first incarnation at approximately the same time. They interbred with each other because it would not be just an Adam and Eve. Even if they check the DNA things and they think they go back to this original Eve that was a monkey, there's too much widespread population base at the time of even the Adam and Eve story about 6,000 years ago. So there are multiple first couples that were born, and that probably reincarnation is an evolutionary point. And so when animal became able to make better decisions and had a conscience and could decide right and wrong, a soul was placed. And there were thousands. We've been told 500,000 couples to start with. And if you look at the world population at that time, it is centered around most of the Middle East, warm temperate climates along the tropical zone. But the population grows from that 6,000 years ago time frame and spreads throughout the rest of the world.
So maybe like the ancient Sumerians, Anunnaki, that whole thing. What's your take when somebody says, no, they believe that we stem from the Anunnaki, as per the ancient Sumerian text, going back even further. So now we're looking at kind of like extraterrestrial intervention. Missing link might be from up there.
And I understand that theory, even though Isabella doesn't agree with it. Isabella says,
Isabella, we need to talk. I want more answers.
So Isabella says, what is the story of the Anunnaki? This is pretty easy. We have an ancient people who said some spirit entity from the air came down and created us. That's not much different than the Jewish story, which says a great God above from up in the air, And then when they believe the atmosphere stopped. So anything, God was just that outside of our atmosphere, came down and created us. If we look at the Hindu world, Brahman created everything as part of within himself.
Right.
So if you look at that, those stories are the same story.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. Something greater than us from outside of our sphere created us in places.
So do you believe in the theories of multiple gods, such as in the Old Testament, as the gods made men in their image?
Okay. So
because the real heavy duty Christians will say it was our image, as in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. But I think that depends on which book you're reading.
Yeah, it's if you read and you look at some of the original Hebrew, it actually puts God as El or Elohim.
That's right.
And it reports that there is the Elohim and there are lesser Elohim, which matches again across a great version of this as we see Greek mythology where you have higher gods and lesser gods.
Mm-hmm.
We have Elohim, and they actually call one of the Elohim the lesser, and I'm not supposed to say God's name as it's spelled in the Hebrew.
Oh, I say it all the time. Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, if you want to say it, I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, Yahweh.
Yahweh, yeah.
That's right, the Hebrew God Yahweh, yeah.
Okay, there's actually, in the original, they talk about lesser Yahweh, which they say is the angel Metatron. Now, that means, or Enoch, which they say is Enoch. Correct, I know.
That's how I call them when I ring them up. I'm just saying.
Okay, just to point this out. So
yes.
Even if you said that all those things were facts,
right?
That means the lesser Yahweh lived before Enoch, because time frame it does, and then it would have to be Enoch and coming down in another life. So you could almost say that an angel is a lesser Yahweh or a lesser Elohim, which doesn't mean that the Hebrew Bible necessarily says there's many gods. It does, however, now it does.
No
it
other
does.
God before me.
Correct.
Says
Now,
to me, that's more than one.
All
anyway.
those years of mass that's coming through your head right now. all those years at mass. I mean, I'm Italian. You could just imagine. I didn't even miss a saint feast. Like, but anyways, yeah.
And there is a whole other bit in there that I haven't discussed with Isabella, which is there's something in the Hebrew Bible that says that the head Elohim assigned other gods to other countries,
right?
Which I would interpret as angels over other people,
right? Okay. No, that's interesting. I love hearing different perspectives on it because we weren't there,
No,
and
right.
and there is a lot of information out there. I find it fascinating because it all comes down to interpretation, and so many people who do study the Bible, like really hardcore, are studying the interpreted version, and even religious scholars have said, well, this isn't this was this. For example, the Red Sea was a sea of reeds, and archaeologists are starting to collaborate with some of that. So I find it's interesting. I mean, it's just how many languages has it been interpreted into? Somewhere along the line, there's going to be some confusion.
And then you have the vernacular of every century and every, by century, you're going to have a different form of speaking and explanation, which tears it apart yet again. So if it makes you feel good and it's something that you go to, that's great. We all need peace, but realistically, to try and prove facts off of it,
it's hard.
It's
you
hard.
can't do it. Not nowadays. It's a different time. It's not like before where in order to reach Egypt to research this piece or that piece, I would have to wait months and months and months of, communicating back and forth with snail mail. Now it's just click
It's right
on
there.
History Channel, this channel,
Right
that
there.
channel, and everything is there for you. And you piece it together. And when you're researching it, you realize, just how much of it was controlled.
But Alex has a good question for them.
Sure.
Alex, geez. No,
I
I'm
know
kidding.
Alex.
He's a friend. He's a friend. It's
That's why
okay.
we're razzing him. Yeah.
It's okay. So if time machines actually existed, which time period would you travel to? Wow. Why didn't you ask us that when we were on your show?
Yeah, Alex.
So I'll answer that a little different. If you say, what was our favorite past life? It was in the 1650s. It was
Nice.
a simple life in England, in the Cotswold.
Oh.
As a farmer, it was beautiful. We had sheep, one horse, built your own home with a thatched roof. It was a very loving life.
Simple.
It was still simple, and it was wonderful.
Would you go back if you could?
He could right now, and he'd be back in time anyways. Cotswold hasn't changed.
Not much.
True.
It hasn't changed at all. You could go there right now and still feel like you're in the 1600s in some places.
Correct.
Yeah.
So other than that, I would have to state we live in the world now that is the most peaceful, the least hungry, the least violent.
But we need to do better.
And we need to do better.
We need to do better, because as long as people are starving in this world and we have these materialistic, the whole shebang, the whole thinking, the me and everything, it's not going to get better.
Correct. Again, it's that ego, which is really conceit, selfishness, jealousy, and unforgiveness. If you want to go to a religious theme again, what is the ego? The ego is idolatry, worshiping anything but love and God. So, because you're worshiping what the materialistic world, what you want, and you'll get what you need, even if that's a lesson. But when you start to want things, that means somebody else loses. And if somebody loses, for you to win, karma's developed.
Sad. I'm just going to do a quick station ID while we're on that note. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano. Tonight, our fabulous guests are Dr. David Bettanhausen and Carla Bogni-Kidd. We are talking reincarnation meditation right here. If you're in New Orleans, we're blasting out of you in that city, and we love you guys. We're on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM in New Orleans. We are International Public Radio, one other one which Michelle and I always fail to remember, and of course we are United Public Radio. And we are grateful and thankful to the good people at Folgers Coffee for partially sponsoring our show. I've had that for a few weeks and I keep forgetting to bring it upstairs, but thank you. We love you.
And I'm thankful for coffee too.
Me too.
What kind of coffee?
Folgers Coffee. That's right.
Folgers, that's right. There we go. Now it's a party. There we are.
Oh, okay. Michael Bowman wrote, I would never go to the future. That's like playing Russian roulette. It's hard to give up air conditioning. I would go to 1953 when it became popular. That's a good point. I guess you live in a hot area.
I wouldn't give up air conditioning today either.
But
but if you lived on the English countryside, you wouldn't need it because you have that beautiful breeze coming off of the ocean.
It's beautiful out there. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So, okay, so we've kind of covered, the ancient civilization, Sumerians, Anunnaki. What about cultures that came after that? Let's talk about the Egyptians, for example, because I think they were big into reincarnation. They did believe that the dead could cross over and they would prepare them so they could return.
Correct. That was part of that. We have an Egyptian life.
Two.
Two. And the first thing, because everybody gets excited about pyramids, why did we build pyramids in Egypt? Because the gods lived somewhere up there. They lived either in Olympus, like a mountain. They lived up in heaven, so you made a mountain so God could live up in the mountain. They believed that their pharaohs would all become gods, so you had to make them a mountain because the land is flat.
Mm-hmm.
And so they actually prepared the bodies. They actually buried people with their servants and food and everything, and many people died. And so there's, of course, karma related to that. If you thought, I'm going to take 20 lives with me when I die because I need somebody to take care of me in the next world. And that's actually the Osiris myth, which is you will die if you're the pharaoh, you'll be buried, and 3 days you will rise again and come back as a god.
So we're getting into the symbolism a little bit just from that comment as we look at Jesus Christ resurrecting 3 days after. Have you studied symbolism on all of this?
We're looking at some
getting
of it.
there. Okay,
it's interesting. It's interesting because when you die, Isabella's told us that there is 3 days while you are sort of
acclimating.
Yeah, disoriented. You don't have your 5 senses anymore.
Right.
You have to learn to be telepathic and experience with everybody else. And so there's actually a time period that you have to acclimate before you go to a past life atonement.
Right.
Because you can't interact very well with the spirits, those that have passed God, if you're not completely acclimated. This is another interesting point because I got to experience my father's last atonement or past life review.
How was that?
It was amazing because I watched my grandmother meet him. I watched him look at his past lives. I watched one life because he was my father in that life in Chicago.
Wow.
And I watched a life before that where he was a slave trader in Bermuda.
Oh, wow.
Where we were slaves.
Yeah. He stole people from Africa, chained them into the bottom of his boat, separated families. In the life in Chicago, his son was killed to separate him from his son. He lost his wife in childbirth. In the next life, he's my father. And the last 20 years of my father's life, a wonderful man. The last year of my father's life, the last 20 years, he got Parkinson's very severely, and he was chained to a wheelchair for almost 20 years.
Wow.
So that talks a little bit about karma.
Karma, yeah. Yes, wow. I think that's part of even, growing up Catholic. It's like if you fear this or if you cause this pain to somebody else, you will come back feeling that pain. If you cause fear or instill fear, you will come back fearful. Like it's just that you're taught karma from such an early age.
And if you want to think about karma, because there are times when people come back in their own families, fathers who become their great grandson, those kind of things, following in full soul groups. I want you to think about abuse and alcoholism, how it passes through families. If you're abusive or an alcoholic, do not be surprised if you don't return in that family, because your son may have become an alcoholic and then he'll have you and you'll have to deal with an alcoholic father.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
And then, of course, part of the lesson there is if you have an alcoholic father, you need to overcome that and not become alcoholic. That way you beat your karma or overcome your karma.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. That's kind of full circle. Like it could just go on and on and on. It'd be like a hamster on a wheel
On the
kind
wheel.
of thing.
Unless
Yes.
there's a way to get off the wheel. And that's part of what our message is that you can get off the wheel if you start making every decision and intention out of love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the example is you go into the grocery store and the clerk is rude, and then you become rude back at the grocery store clerk.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding that they may have had a bad day, if you're rude back, did you just create karma and now you're tied to this store clerk in your next life?
Well, that makes it interesting, doesn't it? Because how does that, this is like not your soul circle. This is some random person that just crosses your path. So how does that come into your karmic atonement sort of thing?
Well, there's a couple ways. There's certainly, you may be able to fix your karma still in this life. If you're nice, if you're rude to the store clerk, and then the next store clerk you're not rude to, you're very polite, that store clerk may go home. It's now nicer to her husband or wife.
Got it.
Who is
Paying
nicer?
it forward.
Paying it forward. And as they pay it forward, it
Mm-hmm.
may return to the clerk you were rude to.
I'm a firm believer in paying it forward in so many ways.
Me too.
Yeah. And it could
Me
be the
too.
smallest ways. Nobody says you have to go out there and buy groceries. Like I've been in line where I've received a coffee, but I've also been through drive-throughs where I'm
And
buying for people
that's
behind
right.
me.
That's big. That's big up here. We do.
It's very big in Canada where you're at
Yeah,
a
we
drive-through
love
and you
it.
go up to the window and like the car in front of you paid for your coffee. Like,
That's
oh,
true.
okay, thank you.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
But for years and years and years, because I've been working in my field for 18 years, and people always want to pay me for it, and I'm like, no, like, well, how can we repay you? I said, you have to pay it forward to someone else. I'm an animal advocate and lover. Maybe
Me
pay
too.
it forward that way, or maybe just smile at somebody. Go out of your way to smile at somebody that day and say
That's right.
hello, and it
Hold the
is
door
like Amelia
open, my
said,
gosh.
it's so
Yes.
minimal.
Yeah, but holding doors open for people doesn't exist anymore. They just
No.
go
Mm.
right in, and
No.
it's like, oh my god, it's courtesy, common courtesy,
Mm-hmm.
manners. Those
And it would
little
just trickle
things.
down. If people would do it, it would just trickle down.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's one of my favorite films called "Paying It Forward" with Kevin Spacey. That was one of my favorite films.
Amelia, that's just interesting because the third book, which we didn't mention yet, is called The Manual. And there's actually a whole section in there on manners and
Etiquette.
how to be etiquette and what to do that's proper. Because missing those rules just allows us to hurt each other.
It does, and it's saying that I'm more important than you, and it speaks volumes. Even if you're late, it says my time's more valuable than yours is. Do the small things, show up early to a meeting. My gosh, open a door for a person, regardless of their gender. Open the door for them.
That's right.
If you're on a bus, pay the fare for the person behind them. It's little things. Nobody's asking you to spend thousands of dollars. It's the little things that make the biggest difference in the end.
And that was one of the lessons we learned very early on. Isabella said,
I got my daughter's hair looking tight, so we hopped in the car and went to Mickey D's to celebrate. I did my thing with these braids meal.
There's a meal for every moment on the McDonald's $1, $2, $3 menu.
Enjoy a tasty McChicken biscuit or chicken McGriddles. Get two of the same or one of each for just $3. Prices and participation may vary. Single item at regular price cannot be combined with combo meal.
Ever wonder what life would be like without frozen drinks and slushies from McDonald's? Actually, let's not go there. It's more than a drink. It's a McDonald's drink.
Get a medium frozen Coca-Cola or Fanta for $1.59. Goes great with a fresh beef quarter pounder with cheese or crispy chicken sandwich. At participating McDonald's for a limited time. Fresh beef available at most restaurants in contiguous U.S. Not available in Alaska, Hawaii, and U.S. territories.
if you are special, none is more special. And if you don't start to look at it that way, if you think you're more important, then you suddenly fall into conceit. If you're jealous and you don't share what you have, you fall into more karma. If you're unforgiving, that's also causing karma, and that includes you have to forgive yourself when you make a mistake. All of that is important.
Oof.
That's a hard one.
I'm my toughest critic, so that's really hard.
That's
my husband would tell you
people.
I'm really hard on myself.
Yeah,
I'm
but also apologizing to somebody else, for like pride, I guess, is one of the worst things to get over. Pride. It's
that's a form of conceit. So
yes.
And my dad raised me to believe, and he instilled this in all of us. He would say to us, no one is above you and no one is below you. We're all one. You are never to feel superior or inferior at all. Always one. We all have just different learning experiences.
And that's another one of those lessons that's related to this. We see people start to talk about saying they think they're an old soul. If you've had a lot of lives, I don't care. We all are a soul. Nobody's more special. Just because you've had more experiences or more lives doesn't make you more special. You're still here because you still got more to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think it would make you more experienced.
It's funny.
Like being at a job forever,
I feel like I can pick off the newbies because they're always more materialistic than the ones that have been around the block a few times.
Correct.
Yeah.
Always.
So, yeah, I think if people looked at one another more as a spirit, as an energy instead of a physical person, you would eliminate a lot of things, like prejudice. I say we're all spirits on a human journey. Again and again
and again.
It's just like buying a new car every few hundred years.
And you're living on each side of the issues every time. So you're fighting yourself if you think that you're always right.
Right.
Probably every Democrat's going to be born a Republican next time, and every Republican will be born a Democrat.
I see the world go topsy-turvy. Okay, so what are your thoughts then on, I call it DNA printing, but realistically it's ancestral memory that imprints on us. How do you tell the difference?
Good question.
I see Carla getting all excited in her chair. This is perfect. So,
yeah.
What's the difference between reincarnation and ancestral imprinting?
Okay. Ancestral imprinting would be even a little bit different. That means that ancestral imprinting, if you're talking about as it follows through DNA,
yes,
certainly that's possible because you can return as your own grandson or great-great-great-granddaughter someday.
So what if it's like in the DNA, like, you have an ancestor who died in battle, let's say World War I or World War II, and you feel that fear, that angst, because realistically you have their DNA.
And they're doing studies right now on Holocaust survivors because there is some sort of an ancestral imprint that seems to be present within Jewish people regarding that whole experience.
Wow.
So that can follow as DNA or ancestral memory.
Right.
However, you can also have soul memory.
Right.
Part of that memory from your past lives. And if we do the research on consciousness and subconsciousness, you're even in this life, like the first time you touch something that's hot, it feels hot and you pull back. The second time you touch something hot, you pull back faster. If you save all your memories in the subconscious and they follow through with you, then the memory of war in the past follows through. And so when you see war, you want to pull back faster. If you see somebody about to shoot you, you pull back faster. If you drowned in a pool of water, you have a fear of swimming.
Right.
And when they do past life regression, sometimes people get rid of some of those fears because they're aware they're from a past life. We did do past life regression training with Dr. Brian Weiss after we wrote the first 2 books because we wanted to meet more people and learn more. However, also doing enough research on past life regression, there's a series of memories that can come through that may be related to fantasy. So we don't do past life regression for a living. We do it on friends and family because it's fun and it's good to see past life memories. But it's really the lessons you learn from a past life memory that matters, not who you were or what you did.
Dave, talk about the gene expression from the manual.
That's another part that's in the manual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because some people don't know the difference, and it's very.
Yes.
I imagine it would be very difficult unless you were regressed.
Correct.
Okay.
But so here's another thing that we've learned that is interesting. You know, the soul can actually enter the baby any time between conception and birth.
Okay.
At any time. Now, imagine that there are many people who look like they did in their past lives, but everybody doesn't look like they did in their past lives.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people doing research on that right now too. If your soul enters close to the time of birth, there has been no time for your soul to imprint on your DNA. And so you're born looking much like your parents now. And more of your traits are ancestral passed down. If you enter the fetus close to the time of conception, when you're 1, 2, 4, 5, 8 cells, you actually have 9 months for your soul to impress on your DNA how to express.
Okay.
That gives you a chance for gene expression. And they've done studies, not directly on this, but they're doing studies now on eye recognition, and there is some eye recognition that they believe may be able to show, if we start a database many years from now, who you're related to in a past life or who you were in a past life, because we may show that our eye repeats itself because there's something in the eye that we recognize. I saw Carla in many past lives, and there are lots of times when she's blonde and blue-eyed, but there's times that she's black with black eyes and she still looks like Carla when I look in her eyes.
Right.
You recognize her soul.
There's something in her soul that you recognize through
the eyes are the windows to the soul, as they say.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Mine must have been messed up because I have every color in my eye. Sackman asked, I have a question. When it comes to reincarnation, do people tend to gravitate to the line of work they were in a past life? Why or why not?
Okay. From this is patterns that we see. I don't know that anybody's done any research, so I'm going to just give him my opinion. Certainly, it appears that healers show up frequently in past lives if they are. So I have a couple lives where I may not have been a doctor, but I was a healer. Religious people tend to show up still in those religious, even if they're in a different religion in the same category. People, now, there weren't industrial machinists 6,000 years ago.
That's right.
So you can't see whether you were that. Sometimes leaders are leaders again. So I think there are patterns that way. Certainly there are musicians who have skills in that life and they bring that skill forward in this life. So I think you'll find that there are traits and skills that follow. And I suppose if you were a bad king, you may come back as a subject in the next life because you have to learn the other side.
So the guy that has to wash King Henry VIII's feet.
Correct.
Actually, in the manual, we do have King a bit in there about several famous people from history, and Henry VIII is one. We actually have his life before Henry and his life after Henry with details, who he was, what his name was, and how his lives played out.
That's exciting.
Yeah, Napoleon's another one that's in there, and
that'd be
Cleopatra.
Right.
Yeah.
So Carla, you have to at least mention a little bit about the karmic wheel, because Amelia's already said she's March, so you're a Pisces.
Yes, I am. All the way through. In all the ways,
I
sadly.
think I'm outnumbered. I'm a Taurus.
Okay, Taurus and Pisces get along great.
No, that's good.
That's why we're
I'm a
close.
cusp Pisces. Well, what Isabella has told us is that, and the Bible says that we have, they don't say we have spirit guides. They say we have archangels. First of all, we'll just say, and this is all in the manual, angels do not vie for the limelight. No angel feels more superior or higher than the other. They're all angels, the end. And there are many angels that have legions. They don't all have legions, but some of them do. So when we're born, we have an angel assigned to us, a main angel, just like we have a main spirit guide. And the main angel is given to us karmically. It's based on our tendencies and our life previous to this one. So, and like anything else, this is also in the manual, the world has lots of 12s in it. There's 12 dozen donuts. I'll say that first. See where my mind is. There's 12 apostles. There's 12 there's 12. I am Italian. There's 12 astrological signs. There's lots of 12s, and we do talk a lot about that in the manual. But the astrological signs are broken down into 4 groups of 3. And contrary, and I'm sure you'll get hate mail on this one, contrary to what is believed, what Isabella tells us is that the astrology does not begin with Aries. It actually begins with Aquarius, because the first person born was born as an Aquarian, almost a Pisces. So Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries fall under the yellow angel of Mariel. And then you have Taurus. Okay, I'm not looking at my chart here, so I have to remember. Let me bring it up. All right. So you have Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer that all fall under the pink angel, Shamuel. So you don't necessarily have Shamuel. You have an angel from the legion of Shamuel. That's the pink angel of Conceit. Sorry about that. Now remember, when Dave and I first found out that we both fell under the yellow angel of selfishness, which is Mariel, that doesn't mean we're selfish today. That means in a past life we were selfish. That means it wasn't that we didn't share our cookies. It could mean that we were selfish with our time. Right. So the same thing with conceit. I mean, conceit is not always just looking in the mirror. Conceit can be you think your idea is always the best or right. And again, we're given this angel based on our tendencies in our past life, not necessarily this one. And that's why God gives us this angel to help us overcome. So often when you meditate, if you're seeing colors, you are seeing the color of your angel. I see purple because my angel is Estes. He's my main angel. And then I have Mariel. So you have these other angels that come in to help you with those traits. And then, okay, let's see, we stopped on Cancer. So
Carla,
Leo,
let me say something real quick.
Yes.
So Amelia, don't worry, even if you have a selfish angel, you're paying it forward. You're doing the right thing.
Oh, I don't. I actually work with Archangel Michael. I have since I was little. Because I'm a medium and a remote viewer, and I work mostly with missing children. So I rely on them a lot. Rely on them a lot.
Dave has a lot of Reiki, and Michael is who the girl channels to bring the white light right from God through Michael, to his Reiki master, and because he had heart surgery last year.
Oh wow!
Anyway, did you have a question, Michelle?
Well, I was just, on a reincarnation standpoint, I just want to touch on something that David said about, gifted individuals. That's using music, for example. What do you make of savants? These amazing kids.
Those amazing kids that at 3 are starting to play the piano, the Stevie Wonders of the world.
They're all university at like 6.
Correct. those people are carrying that memory forward easier. They've done some of the work already, so it's understandable.
Right. Okay.
And it makes sense.
I would come back just to play as Beethoven, just saying. I'd like to share a story, if that's okay with all of you.
Certainly.
Thank you. When I first started with this work in a serious manner, and I practiced on cold cases, and Sean knows the story because I've talked about it before, and it's just fitting for right now. And this woman, it was from like way back before, right before the 1920s or the 1920s. She was a nurse. She had children. She had a family life. And she had a different side of her as well. She was in love with the mobster. She was having an affair. Well, it was about her murder, and a family had brought it forward that it was a great aunt, and they never understood why she was where she was. And she was stuck because she didn't feel that she was worthy or, worthy to go into the light because of her sins created on earth. But the weirdest thing about her is that she was a spitting image of me. That was the weirdest thing. And I did end up crossing her over, but that was the thing that stuck to me. And it took me a while because I didn't want to let her go. It's the first time, that I've purposely held someone back because I wanted to know more. And she was very, it was incredibly easy for me to be around her as well.
So then that brings another question with Amelia's story. What do you make of spirits that get stuck and that don't reincarnate right away? Is that a fear of moving forward? Is it fear of maybe not being forgiven?
Okay, so the first thing is, I'll have to tell you, the ghost or the being crosses over. They are not living in a physical world. Now, if they're in this non-physical plane, they just haven't accepted the fact that they've died. So they're trying to connect to this plane because it's what they know. They're not going through that 3-day transition that we talked about. They're staying there in the non-physical plane, refusing to go to their atonement, not to all of those things. So
she's sorry. She's also classic unfinished business kind of thing because they didn't know who had killed her or how it happened, and that was information was given to me after, and it held her back. And her children were grown, and I got that information from her as well. But it was quite an experience. It's got to be one of the most extraordinary I've ever had with a cold murder case.
Yeah, I always say they will speak, It's just like a mother waiting behind maybe for her child, because they may have died in a fire or something, or the child waiting for mother. Like, what do you do in a case where maybe they don't know that they're deceased?
Yeah.
And that happens, especially with people that die quickly, unexpectedly, or children. And Isabella says that their atonement is different. Their life review is different. It's pretty hard to show a child everything they did negatively in a life when they were only a child. So often children will get stuck, so to speak, because they don't understand that they've already passed over. They think that they haven't passed over. So their atonements or life reviews are different.
Yeah. Children are a big different category, especially if they don't recognize someone trying to help them through. That's been a hell of an issue.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, that's for sure.
They get stuck a lot.
So we're almost nearing that time. It's really been a lot of fun. You guys are very knowledgeable, and it just has a whole bunch. My head just keeps going, this and this and this. But I'm looking at the clock going, I'll get tired.
It's guests like you, the reason why I'm still awake at 3:00 in the morning.
I know. Because
I keep going, wow, that was fascinating. And I really I learned a lot. Thank you. Yes.
So why don't you tell everybody what you have coming up, promote your books, website, anything you want to promote before we close off?
Well, our website is The Gift of Past Lives with Mother. It's just thegiftofpastlives.com. Certainly, there's links to our books. We have the Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth. We have Hell No Reincarnation is our second book, and the manual, because Carla likes to say she never got the manual. So the third book is the manual.
Excuse.
No, I like that.
There are certainly links. Those are all available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and bookstores in Canada, UK, everywhere. So you can certainly go out and look for those.
We have a fourth book coming out in October, hopefully.
Yep.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
Good.
We've got an upcoming reincarnation symposium that we're doing in Richmond, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you'll find us on some other podcasts, and we're just going to keep writing books until we run out of things to say.
Good for you. I don't know if you've ever heard of Sanaya Says. It's a similar kind of concept, not like you with the meditation. It's one woman, but if you ever get a chance, I think the two of you would enjoy that. It's how I first really opened up. I have to get it for you. But anyways, I want to read just really quickly. Is it okay, Michelle? Zachman says, thank you for joining us tonight. Carla and Dave, keep up all the great work that you do.
I always say he's our third host.
Yes, he's at every show. Have a great weekend, everybody else, and see you all next week. Thank you, Zach. Wayne says, thank you so much to both of you. You're both incredibly gifted and have a wonderful way of expressing your accumulated experiences. And Jessica says, thank you, Dave and Carla.
So thank you. And
we appreciate all your listeners.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. There's lots of them. So hopefully it'll drive more traffic over to the website. And I'm looking forward to the next book. And I think your agent Michelle has looked at possibly December. So we'll be in touch about that.
I think so.
Okay. We'll firm everything up, and we'll see you guys in December. And in the meantime, have a fantastic, safe summer. And thank you for joining us here on the Outer Realm.
Thank you so much for having us. A pleasure.
Yep, it was a pleasure. And just realize that if you believe in reincarnation or not, you're either leaving this world that we're leaving here to your children, or you're leaving it back to yourself.
I like that.
Very well said.
I like
Thank
that.
you.
Scary.
It is. Scary. It is. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And if you've never used StreamYard before, everybody sits there and goes, how do I get out of this place? There's a little button at the bottom. It's a little red X. That's what you click on, and you'll be able to escape here, and you won't be here till morning trying to figure out how you actually get out of here. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Well, everyone, we have come to the end of another fantastic segment on the Outer Realm. As always, thank you, everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank you to everybody in chat. A big thank you to our guests, Dr. David Bettanhausen and Carla Bogni-Kidd. Just a wealth of information and a whole lot of fun. So please remember to stop by the International Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio YouTube channels and subscribe. And while you're at it, head on over to Facebook. Show us some love on our group page, which is the Outer Realm, and go on over to Instagram and like us up there too, because Amelia keeps the sites pretty informative and going. And as I always say, if there's something you want to see on the show, someone you'd like to see on the show, maybe you'd like to be on the show yourself, hit us up at the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Again, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. And tune in next week as we welcome two more amazing guests. Both have been here before. Wednesday, we have Mark Fiorentino joining us, and he will be talking about his continued research on giants, especially those in North America. Thursday night welcomes back Mr. Darcy Weir, and he will be discussing his film and documentary on Sasquatch, and maybe he'll throw in a few other cryptids in there. So until then, Amelia and I thank you, and have a safe weekend. Have a good night, and don't forget to check Joe and I out on Saturday on the Gray Zone Uncensored. That would be 6 to 8 Eastern, 5 to 7 p.m. Central. UFO disclosure, people. Part 3. Good night. Or not. I think we maybe will have a blooper.
Oh, what a shock. Us with a blooper reel.
I know. Okay, any other questions?
You think you're running out of space on your computer, Joe, with us in a blooper reel? No, I think everybody's left. But anyways, if you're listening and you didn't catch the beginning of the show, check out our Facebook page. And I have a couple of links on some past lives that are quite remarkable, and let us know what your thoughts are.
What's Joe? Where's Joe, you mean?
Yeah, where's Joe? Well, I'm glad you can hear us. Oh, Jessica's still there, and Wayne. It's always good to have family hold on.
I know. My gosh,
Steve, thank you.
Yeah, yay.
Joe's probably looking at the clock because he didn't realize it. Oh, so tell me about your day.
Right? There's only one blooper reel. Yeah, I know. It's lots of fun, the blooper reel. You could really do like a whole segment just on our blooper reels. I'm actually just messaging
we don't
him.
Drink on our blooper reel, Suck. We'd get ourselves pulled out if we did. Sadly, we're not allowed to.
Yeah, but, I just said, where are you? We've actually signed off, did our thing. Still waiting.
Yeah, but he does. Yeah, we can't just sign off.
No,
crazy.
See, that's the thing, guys. We could be here till tomorrow. Yes, Wayne is refinishing a church piece while listening to our show.
Nice.
That beautiful church piece that I got is staining it all, and it's all clean.
Nice.
And you can see all the little different colors that it was. It's beautiful. You guys will have to just watch Facebook, and maybe I'll post it.
Oh, I hope so. Well, I'm going to see it regardless. I hope she shows.
This is true too. You see, Amelia sees everything. I know.
I'll see it regardless. I get the pictures when she picks them up.
I'm just going to say we've been done for 5
minutes, Joe.
Already.
You're going to edit the last half, Joe.
I know. Jessica, we're all right. We're good. Just sitting there, just chilling.
Sleepy, but
yeah,
it's only 10 o'clock for Joe.
It's okay. He does, I don't know if he's got another show coming on after us or not, but
usually,
yeah, we can be here till morning.
Oh, where's
are y'all looking for me?
Joe?
Where's our Joe?
Are your kids bored this summer? It's Sponta Manufacturers Instant Fun Sale going on now. Instant fun for the whole family. Cool off with a complete pool package, only $13.99 or just $45 a month. We can install by next week. Instant fun in your new spa for just $60 a month. Relax and unwind. Or tan at home in an instant with your own tanning bed. Great deals and instant fun. Instant fun going on now at Sponta Manufacturers.
America's beverage companies are working together
to reduce plastic waste in our environment.
At the Coca-Cola Company, Keurig Dr. Pepper,
and PepsiCo, we're designing our bottles and caps
to be 100% recyclable,
so every bottle can become a new one.
Learn more at everybottleback.org.